Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Magazine for this May 20th, 2020. It is 10:06 on the clock, and you have your host, James J. Malouf, here. In part two today, we're going to have Wisconsin Honey Producers Associate President Ken Pegorsh with us out of Wapaka. It's going to be, we're going to talk about World Bee Day and some other things. Right now, we have our old friend Joe Terry in, Director of Public Works of Wisconsin Rapids. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
I also want to mention real quick, say hi to Kev and our friends over at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media for being in recording. We appreciate you guys and the good work you do. Joe, first off, how are you and yours doing?
Oh, we're doing great. It's a busy construction season for us, busy at work. It's been interesting, with the pandemic things, and we adjust on a daily basis.
And kind of kicking things off here, rewinding a little bit before we go too forward, as far as the storm damage cleanup of 2019 that we went through in this area, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we are pretty well cleaned up with the debris and everything that was down. We've been working all winter, compiling our paperwork and submitting our reimbursement claim to FEMA. I'm expecting a reimbursement of around $260,000 from FEMA and maybe $150,000 from insurance. But we did incur about $755,000 worth of damage. So we're just about done with that. We've been fortunate to have received a $50,000 grant from the DNR. And with that, we're replanting a number of the trees that were blown down. We've got about 100 trees already planted this spring. So we'll be busy this summer watering those.
That's really good to hear. That was one of the once the dust settled a little bit and you kind of look around town, when I first moved out here, the first thing my family and I noticed was all the trees and how beautiful they were. And especially coming from concrete like we did, you notice that stuff right away. And to see so many of those trees go down, it is so good to hear that. A little bit of breaking news here. Trees create oxygen. So, we need them. And that's really good to hear that's one of the things that we can take as a silver lining of this, that we're going to have more beautiful trees throughout the years here and everything.
It is. And in a municipal setting, it also, there's so many benefits from oxygen, just a calming effect. It's pleasant and power, heating and cooling. When there's trees around, it maintains temperature a lot better. And some of the areas that we're planting were partially devastated in the previous storm event, and we really didn't get a whole lot of replacement. So like I said, we were lucky to get that DNR grant, and there's a number of ways that we could have spent it, but our focus was on replanting, and that's been our goal with this, is to use all those dollars towards reforestation of our urban forest. You mentioned
the construction projects underway. Can we dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, so we've got a number of projects underway this year, and we do have a carryover project that with the storm last year we weren't able to get complete. But the first project we started this year was on 10th Street South, and that was between Airport and Grove. And this project was in coordination with our water utility, primarily a water main and street replacement project. It went really quick. From my perspective, maybe
Sure.
From the property owners that live there, not so much. But final shaping was complete yesterday, and I'm expecting that there'll be some asphalt pavement being laid down either today or tomorrow out there. So that one we should be getting wrapped up here pretty quickly. We then moved with our crews over to Chase Street between 17th Avenue and 21st Avenue South. That project was a project that everything needed replacing. Storm sewer, sanitary sewer, water main, the whole works. And that project was a challenge for us because there was, there's some rock there and a little bit slow. But we did get to 20th Avenue last fall, and we weren't able to complete it. So this spring, we started, just a few weeks ago, we started from 20th to 21st Avenue. We completed our underground work on May 15th. And concrete curb and gutter was being put down this week, and we expect that sidewalk, topsoil, and asphalt pavement will be happening shortly. So be good to get that one wrapped up. Most of that project, we did have one layer of asphalt down last fall, so for the folks it was it was okay to drive on and and that. So
Yeah, and you know, one of the things I just want to mention too, when you kind of give us the kind of behind the curtain a little bit look, or you know, the behind the underground look a little bit,
yes,
we know you know, potholes, those kind of things. We don't often think about what's underneath all that and how much work that can need, and that stuff ages quick.
it does. And one of the challenges with planning these types of projects is trying to determine or plan obsolescence of the street so that the street's worn out at the same time that the underground stuff is. And that wasn't really done a whole lot in the past. You know, a lot of the infrastructure that was put in by our grandparents and great grandparents,
Yeah.
and it was there. We didn't really worry about replacing it so much. And you know, 80 years later, 60 years, 80 years, 100 years later, when it's time to replace it, we suddenly have a little different perspective on how should we plan these projects. And so, you know, one of the things that we do try to do here at the city is work with our utilities, really try to determine what are some of our utility or underground priorities, and try to schedule projects around that so it makes sense, and focus as much as we can on those arterial streets and you know, and collector streets, and maintain the residential streets as long as we can. But the condition of those might be a little bit poorer. But again, you're not driving on them as often. It's kind of from that main street to your house and back. So
Certainly, you know, the most important part is keeping our workers safe and making sure that they're okay and they're safe out there when they're working on these roads and everything. You know, right next to that is, of course, what you said as far as the conductor job that you have to do of making sure, well, if I close down Chase Street, I got to make sure people can get to the, you know, this place over here, and working around that. So to hear you guys think about that is certainly, you know, wonderful for us as drivers and, as citizens. But it can't be an easy gig as far as orchestrating that.
no, it's not. And so there's a number of things that we do here at the city that are done differently in other places. You know, to try to make these projects minimize the impact, at least the inconvenience, as much as possible to the residents that actually live on the project. We tend to do the projects kind of block by block. It takes a little bit more time to do it
Yeah, I
that
was
way.
going to ask. Yeah.
But we're not having a situation then where the whole project's tore up for the entire length of the project, and maybe you're sitting on one end of the project and there's no activity for 3 weeks. So
Yeah.
so that's one of the things we do, and we do really try to do the best we can to post local detours. And I'm really proud of the staff. They do a great job. We always have room for improvement, and folks will call us and let us know, hey, you know, this doesn't seem to make sense, and we'll take a look at it and make some changes and adjustments. So that partnership with the public is really important in us being effective.
The East River Bank's looking nice.
Yeah, so that project's wrapping up. Phase one, we had some trouble with that project. It was anticipated that in the contract documents that the contractor needed to be prepared in case of flooding. But we really never dreamed that there'd be, you know, multiple high water events last year. So there's a stretch that we're still waiting for all the sod and seed to take place from phase one south of Grand Avenue. And the Veterans Park project and Mead Rapids U Park portion is wrapping up. So seed is down. We've got the project essentially done, and we're struggling a little bit, hoping to have everything, you know, grass growing and established by the time Lunch by the River wants to go. But it's looking like we may interfere a little bit with that schedule, so we'll have to be working with those folks to.
Certainly understandable. You know, we talk about this with people all the time, that absence makes the heart grow fonder. We got to think about that with a lot of these events, you know, with a lot of these concerts, a lot of the things that we look forward to so much. They'll still be there. We'll still get to them. It's just going to be a little bit, you know, we have to be patient with this and understand. And in that realm, we have the Aquatic Center as well that people are just very excited about. How's that been going along?
So that project's been going well. There was some challenges last fall with the weather. The early cold weather kind of put a stop on some of the outdoor work that the contractor had planned. So they're scrambling. They've got a good work crew down there, and they're trying to make up for some lost time. Right now, 2 of the 3 pools are operational, and the main leisure pool with the lazy river and all that is still undergoing some final fine tuning and final construction. But we do anticipate, I think it's the 28th, the state's going to come in and do an inspection of this month. And at this time, if it's safe to do so, we plan to open on June 29th, which is a little later than what we normally would. Mm-hmm. But there's also a lot for us to learn. A municipal pool is kind of for the staff, it's kind of a family type situation. The staff that's working there, they'll encourage their friends to come work, and as they grow up and move on, you generally have some experience returning and some new kids. So there's mentoring that takes place. We've been without a pool for long enough that we're starting the family over.
Yeah.
And so we do have to do some training with the guards, and lifeguard training has been delayed because of the pandemic. But we've got to get our staff and our summer help familiar with the pool. There's a lot of mechanical complexities to this facility, but it has been for me really rewarding to be involved in the design and the construction. I think when we open up, I think the public's going to be pretty happy with it. We really tried to facilitate a very inclusive facility with a lot of different activities, but also a few exclusive components, such as some, reservable cabanas and the reservable shelter on site and things like that allow it to be a special event. If a family wants to do a special event, they can reserve some space, but then have a ton of deck space and chairs and deck shade and things like that for the general public. I'm excited about it, and I know our staff's excited and nervous about it as well.
We're speaking with Director of Public Works of Wisconsin Rapids, Joe Terry, and again, a big thank you to Wisconsin Rapids Community Media for being in with us to kind of dive into that a little bit more. And I did not mean to make that pun. As far as the Aquatic Center, when it comes to that, taking a step back and designing this and
Sure.
trying to please everybody it's almost impossible. But you guys did such a nice job with this of really trying to encompass as many different age groups as all the age groups and all the different types of people we have in this area,
Yeah.
and not just in Wisconsin Rapids, but really Wood County, looking stretching out, looking at that from that perspective.
Right. We tried to design a facility that would serve the region because we knew that it would be the only one in the area,
Right.
and people are going to use it. So if we weren't careful in the design, we'd either be overbooked or we'd be asking, having people sending them away because we're too busy, things like that. But we also wanted to create a facility that would be usable all year. The big criticism we got during the design process from some of the folks that weren't in favor of a project is, why would the city spend this kind of money on a project that's only going to, run for 3 months out of the year?
Right.
And so the city was, heard those concerns, and so there's a reservable shelter. It's a 12-month out of the year shelter. The concession stand serves both the pool and it'll serve the park. There were park improvements as part of the project, so the park's usable year round. Outdoor pavilion that's in use all year round, and then in the wintertime, the drop circle in the center is designed and graded so that we'll turn that into a outdoor skate circle.
Yeah. I'm very excited about that part.
And the entrance area, the admissions area, the floor surface is a ice skate friendly surface. So we'll be able to use that then, both in the summer months and in the winter months. So really trying to maximize the value of the facility and make that a great destination right downtown for people and kids and adults and everybody to have some fun.
Well, and it's one of those things, we've many of us remember Rainbow Falls,
Right.
and how popular, how great that place was as a destination. And it's certainly not the same thing, but there is a lot of likeness there, and a lot that you still have that generation of people in this area that are older now, have kids, want something like that. And having something like that isn't just a couple months that you could go up there to Rainbow Falls and do that, in the summer or whatever, when we had that brief moment of summer here in this state.
Right.
Having something that as year round is incredibly adaptable, very, very not certainly smart and economically smart and everything, but it's listening to your citizens, your audience there, and that goes a long way too.
Yeah, and serving all of the public was a critical component as well. We've got that lazy river set up so that it's 20 laps to the mile, so we can do some programming, some morning exercise programming. The activity pool, can be used for lap swim. It can be used for different games, some basketball, a zip line, a climbing wall, a diving board, just a ton of different use. And even the tot pool, the kiddie pool, it's zero depth entry. We've got some spray features on one part for the kids that are ready for that, but for some small kids, they don't necessarily want to have, water on their heads right away.
Yeah.
And so we've got kind of half of it that's pretty tame, and then we even have a small lazy river in there. So it's a really neat facility, and especially now that the landscaping and some of the those features are being installed, it's exciting to see it, and I'm excited to participate in the grand opening.
Well, and good choice going with a lazy river over the busy river. Nobody really likes the busy river. It just isn't that popular. So a nice choice by you guys. As far as you mentioned it a little bit, reaching out to other municipalities.
Right. So we did reach out and made an offer to all the surrounding municipalities that if they would like to participate based on population, the city would then allow those municipalities and their residents to be residents, right? So the resident rates, all of the benefits of being a city resident would be extended then to any of those municipalities that would like to participate. So we extended that offer to the surrounding municipalities. We also extended it to the Ho-Chunk Nation. And I think, so right now we don't have a lot of interest, but I think once it opens, folks are going to want that reduced day use and reduced season pass fee and that opportunity just to be, we designed it to be inclusive as a regional facility, and we certainly hope that we get some of that participation.
Well, you build it and then you find out, and that's one of those things that with something like this that you've done your homework already going into it, and you understand that
Right.
Not only is it something that maybe coming out right out the gate you don't have this or that part, you will. It'll happen, especially with something like this that there's not a lot of in the area, and it is going to be pretty hard for people to resist, especially when you look at coming out of this situation that we're in right now. And when people are just, when we finally can kind of get out there again and do certain things like this, people are going to be itching to be able to do that. So whenever it does open, I have a hard time believing that it isn't going to be packed.
Yeah, especially the first several years, I think it's going to be real exciting. And with this facility, we did leave some room for it to grow. We have provisions that we can add a drop slide or a plunge slide if it's more of a high speed vertical drop type thing. We've got provisions for a Wibbits course in the activity pool, things like that. So there's opportunity to add on to it in the future if there's a desire to do so. And if not, it's a great facility as it is.
Well, and I personally, I really like the location. One of the things that we have that we get to brag about around here is we got a baseball team a couple blocks from here that's pretty darn good, in the Wisconsin Rapids Rafters. I like the idea of having it right next door to that. We have heard from listeners, and we've talked about this before, you and
Sure.
I, as far as the parking situation. People were a little wondering about, well, how are we going to fit parking over there and everything? Can you touch on that a little bit for people that might not have heard when we talked about it before?
Yeah, so we do have quite a bit of parking on site that's going to help, and a lot of the game time hours and the pool hours coincide such that your main pool activity is winding down before game time, and so we expect that we'll have some parking challenges, but we believe that there'll be challenges that we can meet, and we'll have to evaluate that if we find that we have some serious congestion issues. We'll adapt and make some modifications accordingly.
Going back to even a couple mayors ago, I remember hearing interviews with Carl and the current mayor at that time and everything about the frustration of, well, people want more in this town. They want more business. They want more economy, these kind of things. And then at the same time, they don't want this. They don't want that. They want the perfect storm. They want the perfect thing, and that just doesn't exist. You're going to have to spend some money if you want to bring in money. I think it's something that we all understand common sensely, but it's something that in your position, I imagine you deal with quite a bit.
Well, we do, and it is a challenge, especially in public works. And I want to do a quick shout out to all the Public Works employees. This is actually Public Works Week, National Public Works
Yes,
Week.
it is. Yeah. Congratulations on that. Yeah.
With Public Works, one of the things that is a double-edged sword is when we're doing our job, people don't notice us.
Yeah.
And but the fact is the infrastructure and streets and facilities like this, it costs a lot of money, and the services that we provide, there's a substantial price tag to go along with it, and for a lot of people, when you don't, when we're doing our job and you don't notice us, there's not that awareness that it's also expensive,
Right.
and so sometimes it's challenging, but. We try to do the best we can, and this facility is a great example. How how our public works superintendent is maintaining our fleet of equipment is a perfect example, where we really try to do what we can to ensure the longest life of what we have, maintain it the best we can, repurpose things to give the best value to the community, because everybody's pockets aren't infinite and deep, so we've got to be good stewards of the tax dollars.
Joe, if people have follow-up questions or they'd like to know more about some of the stuff we've talked about, how can they get updates from any of these things?
Yeah, so construction updates, for folks that are interested, on the city's website, if you go to the Public Works section under engineering, there's a tab there where you can review weekly updates. You can also contact the city engineer and get put on a weekly project update list. And most of the people that live on a project are very interested in that. And for others, just visiting the website when they're interested works really well. So we do try to keep that up to date, the schedule. We try to keep up to date as far as what's happening. And then on the projects, we try to really go door to door and let folks know too, what they can expect. We do have staff out in the field there.
Got about a minute or so left, Joe. Is there anything you wanted to touch on we didn't get a chance to?
Well, I do want to put a plug in for the city's mobile app, the Wisconsin Rapids app. So if folks out there see, potholes, any problems with our public infrastructure, and for that matter, really anything, because it's also used for code enforcement and whatever, that app allows folks to, whether they want to attach their name to it or make it anonymous, they can file a complaint and let us know. And we really do depend on that public input. And so if folks out there are listening and have access to a computer or a smartphone device, I would encourage them to use that Wisconsin Rapids app, download it, it's free, and use it if they see things. They can always call in also. But the neat thing with that app is it can pinpoint the location. They can take a picture of it. We can see right away how serious it is. So encourage people to use that and partner with us to make the city as great as we can make it.
Very well said, very well worded, especially the partner part, because I don't say this critically or anything. If there's one community that will let you know, it's our community. They have no problem, and we know that from this position here at this station. I joke all the time that we got cub reporters out there for us, helping us track down news and stories and everything. We count on that, just like you yourself and your guys' where you guys are. Count on that feedback, and it doesn't hurt, gang, to every once in a while give a compliment either. And I'm not saying that we don't get that kind of thing you in your position and everything, but just this week of all weeks especially, just appreciating what the work that you guys do and everything. We thank you for it and appreciate all the things you take into consideration that not a lot of communities have. I can tell you, especially coming out of Chicago, they don't care very much as far as if they block this street or whatever, you're on your own, figure it out. The fact that you guys take things like that into consideration, we certainly appreciate and appreciate the work you do. You bet. And I know on behalf of myself and my staff, we're proud to work for the community, and we want to do a good job serving the residents. That's our profession, it's our passion. Joe, we never have enough time. You never have enough time. It just ramps right by. I just look at the clock. I'm like, oh man, I got 2 minutes left with them. Yeah. We're gonna have to talk again real soon. All right. Thanks for having me. Yeah. Thank you, Joe. Thank you and yours. Stay strong, and to everybody over there and the staff of yours, you guys take care, and thanks for everything you're doing. All right. Take care. Again, a big thank you to Joe Terry, Director of Public Works, Wisconsin Rapids, and our friend Kevin in Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. We appreciate you guys a lot. Coming up in part 2, we're going to speak with Kent Pergrosh out of Wapaka. He is the president of Wisconsin Honeybee Producers Association. More Morning Magazine coming up on AM 1320 WFHR.